Hey guys, Congresswoman Cammack here, and I just left the floor of the House of Representatives, and I am walking back to the office, and I wanted to give you guys an update about what just happened. The Democrats just voted to take over our elections and to basically ensure that they have control of our elections forevermore. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown on what happened, what is in this bill, the so-called voting rights bill, and what comes next, because that's really important, but then what you can do about it. This is really important, so just bear with me. I'm going to run through this. First and foremost, share this video because we have got to get the word out to everybody. That is important. We've got to share what happened because the media is not going to cover this. So today, the House of Representatives, just now, I was on there and I was casting a hell no ballot, voted to federalize our elections. You're probably wondering, what does that mean? They took two bills, two dangerous bills, HR 1, the For the Politicians Act, and HR 4, and created a love child. They took an old NASA bill and gutted it, and then tucked all of this egregious language into the NASA bill. So it was like NASA Infrastructure Act or something, and has nothing to do with NASA. We are not giving voting rights to Martians today. Even though what we voted on was a NASA bill, it was actually a federal takeover of elections. That right there ought to tell you, if they cannot even name the bill, they have to gut another bill and then tuck their egregious, horrific language into it. That tells you that they're trying to hide something. Let me tell you what was in this bill. So, I'm sorry, I'm out here on the sidewalk, so it's a little bit loud, but like I said, I wanted to tell you guys what happened immediately, because we knew this was coming, and we knew that it was going to pass the House. So really, really important that you guys know what's in the bill and then the next step. So within this bill, and there's a ton, but the things that you need to know that are the most egregious are that it is 100% a mechanism to strip states' rights to enforce voter ID laws. So that means you would not be required to show a photo ID to register to vote or to actually vote. No more ID. You have to have an ID to get on an airplane. You got to have an ID to drive a car. You have to have an ID to buy alcohol. You got to have an ID to buy cigarettes. But you no longer need a photo ID to vote in an election. Think about that. So that is in this bill, and that is what just passed the House. Also in this bill is ballot harvesting. Third-party groups that are paid for by political entities and political parties now can collect ballots and then turn them in. Now, we all know that ballot harvesting is a breeding ground for fraud, and this bill actually makes it so that states cannot ban ballot harvesting. Huge problem. The other thing, it allows non-citizens to vote. This bill allows non-citizens to vote. Think about what's happening. Think about the travesty that is happening at our southwest border. 1.7 million just last year, and it's getting worse. I talked to Border Patrol agents just yesterday. It is getting worse. Non-citizens under this bill can vote. The other thing that I think is the most egregious, and this is why I need you guys to help me spread the word about this, and I'm going to use AOC as an example. This is public financing of campaigns. And you're probably like, what does that mean, Kat? Why is that a problem? Let me tell you why that's a problem. Because the way this bill is written, you now, and you being the taxpayer, me being a taxpayer, we are on the hook for a 6-to-1 match. And I'm sorry, there's a fire engine coming, so hold on one second. Don't let this fire engine go by. So we are now on the hook for a 6-to-1 match for donations to politicians that are $200 or less. And you're probably like, well, why does that matter, Kat? Let me put this in perspective. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, from New York, the original squad member, the one who's pushing the Democratic Socialist agenda. She raised last election $21 million. $21 million is what she raised. Almost $19 million of that was from donations of $200 or less. Let me repeat that. AOC raised roughly $19 million. It was about $18,893,102. I'm doing this off the top of my head because I'm standing out here on the sidewalk talking to you. Almost $19 million in a single election she raised from donors that was $200 or less. So that's a lot of people, right? What does that mean for us now under this bill? Which again, there's still a process. So just because it passed the House doesn't mean that it has gone to the Senate and it's already law. So just hold on. The thing that you need to know is when you have a politician like AOC who raises approximately $19 million in what is called small dollar donations, that puts us in a 6-to-1 match, which means you and me, we don't agree with her, we don't like her, but now we're on the hook to finance her campaign to the tune of $113 million. $113 million. If you have $113 million in your re-election campaign, you're going to be in Congress forever. You hear the Democrats talk about how they want to get money out of politics. This puts way more money into politics. This is why they are the party of do as I say, not do as I do, because their actions are 180 degrees opposite of what they are saying. They are not for the people. They are for themselves. They are for the DC bureaucrats and the politicians, and we know it. This bill is not just about our elections. It is about ensuring that their liberal progressive agenda is about dependency and control. When you think about it, they have this social justice warrior mindset that is all about putting programs in place that aren't hand-ups, right? They're handouts, but these handouts just aren't welfare, right? These are traps. They are designed to trap people into poverty. They are designed to keep people suppressed. And when you look at this whole big thing that's going on, everything from their election takeover bills to the Build Back Broke plan, all of it, this is all about an agenda that is dependency and control. They make people dependent on government so they can control elections forevermore. And this bill is just one more step that they are taking. So you're wondering, this bill just passed the House. What the heck? What the heck happens next? Is it law? No, it is not law. Just because this bill has now passed the House does not mean that it is law. It now goes to the Senate. The Senate has got big problems. So you have probably been hearing in the news about Chuck Schumer and what is going on with Chuck Schumer. So Chuck Schumer has to blow up the filibuster in order to pass this bill. Keep in mind, the filibuster is what protects the rights of the minority. Right now, the minority are the Republicans. The Democrats, when they were in the minority, used the filibuster just as recently as 2020, 323 times. Now they hate the filibuster. Isn't that funny? It's funny. When the shoe's on the other foot, they kick and scream. Oh my gosh, it's the worst thing in the world, even though they are the most egregious users of it. So now that it has gone to the Senate, you're like, okay, the bill goes to the Senate, what happens? Chuck Schumer's got problems. In order to pass this, he's got to blow up the filibuster. Does he have the votes? No. He does not have the votes in the Senate. And it is now our job to make sure he never gets the votes. So you're asking me, what can we do? Is all lost? No. All is not lost. Are we pissed off? Yes. But all is not lost. What this means now is that we have to get on the phones. We need to go to senate.gov, look up your senators. These are your senators in Washington. We're not talking about our state capitals, not your state senators. Do not call your congressmen or women. Call your state senators. It doesn't matter if you're in Montana or Florida or in New York or in Texas. Every state has 2 senators. So that means you have 2 phone calls to make. You get to call your senators and you get to tell them that 1, you want the filibuster to stay in place. 2, you want them to vote no on the so-called Voting Rights Act. It's not a Voting Rights Act, it's a voting free vote. That's what this bill is. So, that is the marching orders here. Call your senators and tell them in their Washington, D.C. offices that you do not want them to support the so-called Voting Rights Act. When you call them, you give them your name, you give them your phone number, you tell them you're a resident of the state, whatever state you're in. You tell them you want a response, because it's very important to tell your representatives that you want a response. If you don't tell them explicitly, I want a response, they're never going to respond to you. So give them a way to communicate back to you, be it a phone number, be it an email, an address for snail mail, doesn't matter. But the important thing is that you go to senate.gov, you look up who your senators are, you call their Washington, D.C. offices, and you tell them absolutely hell no, we do not want this bill. We want our constitutional elections as our founding fathers envisioned them, with the states determining the time and manner and place in which they are conducted. That is what we have to do. So that is what is up right now, guys. That is what is happening in Washington. This literally just happened. You're probably going to see a ton of stuff in the news about inflation and everything that's going on. But the important thing that is happening here is an attempt to take over our elections, which if we do that, we will never win another election. So it's important that we get involved, we get engaged. We cannot lose hope. We can never lose hope. That is very, very important. We have got to stay engaged. So, so-called voting rights bill, everybody knows what it is. It's a NASA bill. You could say NASA bill and they're gonna be like, oh yeah, that's the voting rights bill. Because somehow they can't pass it under the name voting rights, because we all know what they're trying to do. So they got a NASA bill and they use that as the shell. Remember, guys, what this bill does. It publicly finances campaigns. It allows non-citizens to vote. It encourages ballot harvesting. It strips voter ID requirements. All the things that are basic common sense American. This isn't even a Republican versus Democrat thing. This is an American thing. Every single person, regardless of your party affiliation, should want integrity in our elections. And that is why it's important that we get involved. Share this video, guys. Let's educate our friends, our neighbors, our families, our coworkers. Educate everybody on what is going on, what's in this bill, and how they can help. That is my ask of you today. It's Thursday, on the 13th. We have got a couple of days to get this done. Start calling today. Senate will be in through the weekend. Call them tomorrow. Call them through the weekend. They're trying to get this done in time for MLK Day next week. Let's make sure that we honor the memory of Martin Luther King by protecting the system that guarantees equal opportunity for every single American, not equal outcome. This bill does anything but that. Let's make sure that we preserve our elections. Thank you guys so much. Share the video. I'll be keeping you updated. Take care. God bless.